What's happening, monkeys? Darren from Tech Monkeys here again with the second in our series of tech tips, tech hints, and answering your questions. So, one thing that comes up again and again, not just in our business, but every day for any IT guy ever, you just have to have a quick search of Google is, why is my computer so slow? What is it that's making it so slow? I've only had it a year, 2 years, 6 months, a week, and all of a sudden it's slow. Well, the truth is, much like your phone, whether you're on Android, Apple, or what that may be, your phone, your device is designed to get slower over time. It's going to happen. You start off with a brand new shiny machine, and over time, you add more programs, applications, settings, files, and they all slow it down a little bit. But there are little tips, little tricks, little things you can do to help speed your machine up, little places, if you know where to look, that you can find out what's causing it to run so slowly. Some of these are quite obvious, some not so obvious, and in this video I'm going to show you how to get to the bottom of what's causing it to run so slowly. So you will, no doubt, if you've used Windows at all, been into your task manager once or twice to try and kill a program, to try and find out why your machine's running so slow. So you can access Task Manager, right click on your taskbar at the bottom and choose Task Manager. In here, you can get an overview of what's happening with your system. This first screen shows you processes, the different applications that are running on your system. You may only see one or two programs. I've got, according to my toolbar here, Word, Windows Explorer, OBS, and Task Manager running. Yet look at that big list of programs. That's because Windows needs a lot of things running in the background. Each tab you have open in Chrome is another process. Each little application that you've ever installed that needs to run on Access when the machine starts up has to run in the background. But that's not all. There's nothing wrong with that. And you can see here, next tab over is your Performance tab. Sorry, I double clicked there. Next tab over is your Performance tab. This is your indicator if something's wrong, if you like. I'll just make that screen a little bit bigger for you. So you can see there, on my system, I'm using 32% of my processor, 40% of my memory, 0% of both disks, and my network is up and down. Network's a little bit more tricky to get into and tricky to measure, but we'll come back to that in another video. In this video, we're going to concentrate on these three: your CPU, your memory, and your disk. Now, typically, if your machine's running slow, it's one of these things. Either something is using up all your processor or CPU, something's using all available memory on your system, in which case, if all memory is used, it'll start dumping to what's called the page file, which is essentially, when it runs out of memory, Windows will dump the files that it's working on onto a hard drive, and your hard drive is a lot slower in most cases than memory. So how do we get to the bottom of what's causing it? Well, we'd start off, the way I usually attack this, and by all means I'm not saying the way I do things is 100% correct, but it's served me right for the last 20 years, is I use this tab. More used to it because it's what you used to have before you had Windows 10 with the processes. So I go into the Details tab. First thing I do is sort it by what's using the most CPU. Now, system idle process, don't worry about it. That's just a process that's there to use up the CPU cycles, they're called, when nothing else is. It has to have a process there that's making up the 100%, if you like. So that basically means if that's at the top, that's a good thing. It means your computer's not really doing anything. In my instance, I don't really have a program that's hammering my CPU. But if I did, let's say, for example, this, OBS 64, I happen to know what it is, but you might not. It might be a program that's running there that you don't know what it is. Now, there's a few ways to find out. First one is right-click and choose Open File Location. Now, I can see from this that it's actually in a folder called OBS Studio. Now, that might have been, if I'd have gone for, let's say, I'll sort this by name so I can find a process I know. WinWord. Let's pretend we don't know what that is. Let's open it. You've now got a good idea that it's part of Microsoft Office. It's got something to do with Microsoft Office. If you're still not sure and you're not convinced, you can use this. To be honest, I've never actually used it. Search online, because it opens with Bing by default regardless. Nobody uses Bing. Microsoft, get used to it. And it'll give you, again, some clues. Now, when you're searching processes online, be really careful the links you click on. Don't just go clicking on anything. There are several sites out there that know you're going to be searching for what process is slowing your machine down, and they'll try and get you to download some scuzzy software to try and fix a non-existent issue. All we're really looking for is what is it. Now, WinWord happens to have told us it's Microsoft Word even in the search, so we know what that is now. If that was the process that was causing our problem, we've got two options. Kill it. If it keeps coming back and it keeps causing problems, you need to uninstall, you need to reinstall, you need to look for updates, or you need to post us a question and ask why it keeps coming back if none of those things are working. So that's a really quick and simple way if it's your CPU that's been maxed out. If it's the memory, it's pretty much the same thing. Applications should sit at a stable amount of memory unless you're actively using them. I'm using OBS at the moment to do my recording, that's why it's using the most memory and it's chewing up a little bit more. I've got several Chrome windows open. Again, Chrome is a memory hungry beast. But most applications you'll see down here are all sitting pretty static. If you have one application that is just constantly counting up the numbers quickly and going faster and faster, it means that program has what's called a memory leak. Again, kill that process off, try uninstall, try reinstall, try any updates that might be available, and again, if there's no obvious fix for it, post back here, and if we can help you fix it, we will. Processes should not run away with memory or CPU. It could always be, of course, that your computer's just not up to running the task, but that's a case of looking at what the system requirements are for that application. If you go onto Google and search OBS system requirements or Microsoft Office system requirements, Plex Media system requirements, Chrome system requirements, you'll get an idea very quickly. It might be that you've got too many things open. If there's nothing that's really eating up loads of CPU, but you've got lots of other things, just try closing a few programs down. And of course, my favourite one that we get at work all the time is this. Don't leave your machine on for days and days and days and days and days and days and days. Give it a shutdown every now and then. It can't hurt. So what if it's not those two things? What if it's not the CPU and it's not the memory? This is something we're seeing a lot more of. You've got a system that's running slow and there's no discernible reason. One thing a lot of people are overlooking is your hard drive. Now, you may be on a normal hard drive and you went for that one in PC in the advert that had the 2 terabytes of storage. But it's not all about size, it's about speed. Believe it or not, it is about speed. Now, in this machine I've got 2 disks, a solid state on C drive and a normal mechanical disk. Now, disks have a speed, generally, a mechanical disk that is, of 5400 RPM, 7200 RPM, or upwards. They're quick, but they're not as quick as an SSD. One way you can tell if your disk is the cause of your slow system is click on the resource monitor. At the bottom of the performance tab, you have this option for resource monitor. In here, again, you can get a lot more details about the CPU, memory, but what we're interested in now is the disk. So open that, click on the storage tab, and you'll see various information. Again, my system isn't running slowly here, so I can't demonstrate, but what you can see is, if you look at my disk queue length, they're both sitting about 0. They'll occasionally flick up to 0.1. Bear in mind that I'm recording to my disk at the moment. I'm actually recording to the D drive, which is the mechanical drive, and even it's not struggling at the moment. If over here you see a number greater than 1.0, especially if you're into the 10, 11, 12s, 30s, 40s and upwards, you have big disk issues. You have too many programs that are trying to read or write to your disk, and you either need to clean those programs up, get rid of those programs, or look at switching out your mechanical disk for an SSD. Generally on an SSD you don't see disk caching issues or disk queuing issues. Basically it's the number of seconds it's taking for every read and write operation to happen on your machine. Now, you may have several thousand read and write operations happening at any one time on your machine depending on what you do with it. And if there's a second in between each of those, you're going to really notice your system chug and slow. You can get a little bit more information about what application is causing the issue, whether it be read issues, which I have none. Nothing's apparently reading from my disk up here at the moment. Write issues, I'd expect OBS to be high up here somewhere. Or Chrome, as it appears. Ah, yeah, that's OBS there. Total will give you the total combined read and write, and that's all you need to be looking at. So you need to be looking at this number here, this 0.00 as it is on mine. If it's above 1.00, you're going to start noticing performance issues. It's more and more becoming the cause of slower machines. As PCs themselves get faster with better processors, much more memory, it's the disk that lets it down. Don't be swayed by the adverts that say get yourself a 2 terabyte hard disk, because the chances are it's huge, but it's slow. It's alright for storing files on, but you don't want to be using it for your everyday. If you're a gamer like me and you have problems with loading times being really slow on your PC, yet you've got the latest processor and you've got 32 gigabytes of RAM, chances are it's your SSD. Buy the biggest one you can afford. They're not expensive now. I'm sure they're 100 quid for a 256. I use this machine a lot. I don't particularly use a lot of disk space because everything's on the cloud, even on this, which is where I store all my video. I've still got 723 gig free on my C drive, which is again full of junk. I do very little cleanup on this machine, but it's an SSD, so it doesn't matter. I've got tons and tons of space, so you don't need that screaming fast, that extra large 2 terabyte drive. So they're just a few of the ways that you can help troubleshoot your disk. As I say, it's CPU, memory and disk. They're your three main causes. Go into Task Manager, sort by CPU usage, sort by memory usage, see what's really hammering it. Start off in the Performance tab. If none of these are anywhere near 100%, it's most likely going to be your disk. Even if your disk isn't reporting 100%, still go into Resource Monitor, into the Disk tab, and look for that disk queue number. You're looking for anything above a 1.0. If you start really hammering your disk, that's where you notice the problems. I hope that's helped. If that hasn't helped and you've still got issues, give us a shout. Hit us up on the comments section below or hit us up on Twitter. We'll be glad to answer your questions or give you any assistance that you might have with any tech problems. Also, make sure you like, subscribe and share. It all helps. And until next time, happy surfing.